what we've been waiting for. Unbelievable timing on that. And it's the Tigers straight away. Game. Elliott! What a start!
Welcome to the Ultimate Supercoach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Inside NBL Show, our Round 8 preview. As always, we're brought here today by Ryan from Astute Newstead, Bonus Bank, and the Standard Squeeze. I'm the Supercoach Mattrix, and I'm here with Hammer today. Mate, how are you, man?
I'm good. Round 8 already. How are we here?
I don't know. What's halfway through the season? We must be getting there.
Soon. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's ticked along nicely. It's a big weekend coming up after a light round last round, so I'm pretty keen to get into it.
Yeah, me too. Not much has been going on with me. Got this sweet Charlotte Hornets hat, so I'm just keen to. It's just gone
very
fly.
Nice.
Yeah, the old corduroy. Not afraid to put it on. But make sure you hit the like and subscribe button if you love my corduroy hats. If you're listening on audio, hit follow. Give us a 5-star review. On today's show, we're going to go through breaking news. We're going to have an injury report. We're going to go through the Supercoach previews of each game, the most traded in and out, trade and captaincy thoughts, and answering your questions along the way. Our league code is 680-481 for your last chance to get in and get a standard squeeze pack. The winner every week gets one of those. We can duck into a couple questions, not too much. I think that there's a bit of love for Hawk there. Mattrix is on the tinnies in the chat about 30 minutes earlier. Matty Granger's ran out of boost, so he's having a bit of a cry. Adrian's keen, and Rob's punk cannot wait for Hammer's relationship metaphors. Mate, does that mean it's time to head into some breaking news?
Yeah, as long as you got your jacket.
It's time for some news from around the league.
Yeah, you get to see my cactus board shorts. But here we go.
I was actually hoping to see the Great Northern Budgie Smugglers you won on the weekend.
Oh, mate, that's next week. You've got to string people along. I need people to come online next week and join us. You know, you can't just unveil yourself with your first thing. And can you believe I'm wearing this jacket and it's still about 45 fucking degrees in Queensland at this time? Mate, there's one real topic that I think is Supercoach relevant and isn't at the same time. Hawks coach Jacob Jackomas has been fired. Justin Tatum, father of fourth-time NBA All-Star Jason Tatum, has been named the interim head coach. How is that Supercoach relevant?
Yeah, well, firstly, it's big news, isn't it? We've been calling for this for a couple of weeks. Jackomas has been killing our Supercoach teams left, right, and center. So basketball-wise, Supercoach-wise, it had to happen. Where it becomes Supercoach relevant is we think back across the years to every time we've had a change of coach, they want to put their own stamp on the team. So I'm really hoping that for all of our case, for those who've held at Aldridge, is that Tatum's a fan of the big man and that he can unlock Justin Robinson and all these guys that we're either held now or when Illawarra gets that good part at the end of the season, that he'll be able to unlock them and we can use them then. So what's this space? But a change is as good as a holiday sometimes.
Yeah, the worst thing about what's happening right now is Illawarra's schedule is still dog shit, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that's what it comes back to every single time. We talk about them, the schedule makes them irrelevant no matter how good or how bad they are.
So we're talking about how fast is the season going? It's round 8. They have one double game week until round 15. Yeah. After that, they have the best schedule. But the worst thing about the coaching change is I think that the teams will have adjusted by then, don't you?
Well, and who's to say Tatum lasts the season? They put out a call to Gorge, knocked them back. Trevor Gleason's all but knocked them back. There's rumours swirling that they're after a coach with experience and a winning pedigree in this league. Who else does that leave you? They're going to get Joey Wright. I I can't think of too many others. Is it Rob Beveridge? Is it Gordy McLeod? I'm struggling after that to name anyone who might be on their shortlist.
Mate, you and I have had some pretty big coaching experiences, so maybe
Huge.
maybe we could get a run. I seem to remember getting pumped by Rocco Zukowski once as a coach, so that's great.
Might have to change strategy. It wasn't real successful, whatever we threw at the guy.
Yeah, that's okay. We did roll out about a 6-2 center, so that was great.
You can only work with what you got.
There's nothing else I want to cover from the breaking news there, but I suppose the big one is just watch this space on the Hawks. Let's just see where they land. Ulbrich is the big one that's on everybody's teams. I'm not panic trading him this week.
Yeah, me either. As much as I wish I could.
Yeah, look, me too. Would you like to head into the injury report?
I would love to head into the injury report.
Let us know what's up. I don't actually have anything for that one. So
cool. Hey, look, a lot of injuries across the league at the moment. We've got the ones we know about with probably most relevant Cairns, isn't it? Because everyone's getting on them. Patrick Miller. I've seen Cairns alluding to the fact they're going to be rolling out a full team for the first time this year. So what that's telling me is we're getting Clinton back. We're getting Paddy Miller back. Good news for holders. We'll talk about that a bit later on what it means. Delhi and Travers from Melbourne United. Probably not overly relevant with their schedule. Travers is potentially back with a concussion. He apparently wanted to play last week. Delhi, haven't heard. Ian Clark, we haven't heard. Shannon Scott still a few weeks away with Brisbane. Zylan Cheatham still working back from that foot injury. Still leaves that gap open for Mango Mathiang, which we'll probably touch on later as well. Galloway, he's a game time decision apparently. And that's about all I can think of off the top of my head.
No, I like it. I'm just going to head into the double game weeks and the double game weeks. Brought to us today by Ryan at Astute Newstead. You can, slide into our DMs, get an obligation-free free quote on your home loans. He's in contact with about 40 different lenders, and as interest rates rise, sometimes it's not what you spend, it's what you save. So, if you can get you a carton a week, get in contact with Ryan, and he can get your dream home and save a few bucks along the way. But there's 4 teams on the double this week. New Zealand and Cairns are probably still the most relevant on the double game weeks. Perth and Tassie are on the double game weeks. And I just want to look forward a little bit to round 9, where Adelaide and Brisbane will come back into the fold. And again, with those teams that went to America, New Zealand and Cairns as well. So
yeah. And looking a little bit further than that, Mattrix, from round 10 onwards, we should probably keep half an eye on the Kings. They start to build into probably the better part of their schedule.
Mate, to be completely honest, I really just think that Adams will become the captain choice, much like maybe a Cotton or somebody like that is this week for most people coming off that, having a double game week this week.
Yeah. So, with three or so rounds out from it, just keep an eye on your budgets to make sure you can bring in these guys when the time comes.
Let's head into some previews.
Let's preview the games for the week ahead. It's time for Game Talk.
Mate, this is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze. Use code INSIGHT15 for 15% off. They've got your 4-in-1s. They've got a heap of these. I'm sitting here with my bourbon homebrew, but I'm not going to get too lit tonight. There's a few games that I want to talk about, and Tassie and New Zealand are the first one on Thursday night. That's 6:30 up here in Queensland. I love a double. I suppose 2 games on a Thursday night because, you know what? I never have anything on a Thursday night. So I'm going to be sitting there. I'm going to be watching everything. But we all talk about this great schedule for New Zealand. Tassie aren't a really good matchup, are they?
Nah. Tassie, they get you down the weeds. You play that grit and grind Jack Jumpers basketball. And traditionally, you look at the scores from both teams, they will be below average. You're not going to... There's just not enough possessions the way Tassie run out the clock on offense and they grind out on defense. So just buyer beware when you got Tassie coming up as your opposition.
Yeah, and is that big one the center position? Like a lot of people looking at bringing in Mango this week, and it makes sense. But when you have a look at the way that Tassie play, if it was a single game week, you wouldn't be touching Mango with a 10-foot pole, would you?
No, it's more the schedule and the price is attractive, and he's coming off a bit of form. But that matchup in Tassie, he's going to come up against Marcus Lee. He's going to come up against Will Magnay in spurts. You got the two-headed monster. They're both defensively pretty solid,
Yep.
And Mango, look, he's been good, but let's be honest, he's limited offensively. He's not going to shake and bake too much with these guys. So if he is going to have a down week, I'm very cautious that this might be it.
And look, this is a Supercoach podcast, so I'm going to fast forward. We can rewind back afterwards to the other New Zealand games, so we can cover all the New Zealand players. They're playing Illawarra later on in the week. If anything out of Illawarra, it's been the way that their forwards and centres have been as well. When you go to look at the, I suppose somebody like Mango bringing him in, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, look, Mango coming up against his old team. A lot of guys rise to the occasion. He's going to be matching up on Sam Froling, who's come off a pretty good game last week. A lot of turmoil in Illawarra. I don't know what squad's going to turn up next week. So, look, that's a game that could go either way. Like, New Zealand could come and absolutely destroy them, or maybe they're refreshed and re-energized and they come out with a little something. But, yeah, they're both not amazing matchups. We know Illawarra isn't deep at centre either, so could work in his favour.
So, you know what? It wouldn't be a week if we weren't talking about Parker Jackson Cartwright. How do you like his matchup? And I'm going to go to Anthony Lamb as well. How do you like those matchups? First against Tassie and then against the Illawarra.
Lamb, I like. Against Tassie, look, they do play team defense. You got the help defense coming from either Magnay or what's the big fella?
Lee.
But he can stretch the floor. He's a matchup nightmare. Do you put a centre on him? Do you go with Jack McVeigh, where he's probably going to bully him down in the post? I like that matchup for Lamb. For Parker Jackson Cartwright, who's his matchup? The other Mighty Mouse? That's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be up and down, but neither of them are amazingly good defenders. Like, they get the steals, but they gamble. I wouldn't say either of them are really solid. So I don't hate the matchup. I just hate that the pace of the game's likely going to be a lot slower.
Yep. And later on, 8:30 on Thursday for us Queenslanders, Perth versus Cairns. Both these guys are on double game weeks, so we can sit here for a little bit and talk about it. Cotton, probably the obvious captain choice for me this week, especially with Parker Jackson Cartwright. We just talked about a little bit of a harder matchup. Look, Cotton seems to be the obvious captain choice this week, doesn't it?
I think so. Like, if you're going to spend up, we always say this, you're going to spend a $400K, you're not doing that to put him on your bench. Like, if we want to jump ahead to captains too, like, there aren't that many options this week. So I like Cotton as captain. I'll probably captain him. I'm 99% going to captain him, but that's an interesting matchup, Cairns and Perth. Both have a bit to play for, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Look, Taron, Miller, we haven't seen them on the court together. What do you think?
Well, we haven't seen them as a full squad. You got McCall coming back into the mix too. Like, some ball-dominant guys who love the ball in their hand. I don't know if there's going to be enough rock to go around. So I'm not bringing in Miller. I'm not bringing McCall or Holt Armstrong. I'm going to be a wait and see on both those other two, given the good schedule. But this week I've got enough coverage. But I just saw an interesting.
Do you think this affects Bobby? Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, I just saw an interesting comment in the comments saying thoughts on Gak instead of Mango. Now that's a name we haven't touched on much with Cairns. What are your thoughts on that?
No. Like, really? Like, when you're looking at Ward, when you're looking at Menenga, and look, Gak's at a juicy price at the moment. Look, maybe you could consider Gak instead of a Menenga, but when you've got Ward and you've got... Look, I don't really like Mango. I'm not bringing Mango in. I haven't been considering Mango at all. I suppose you could roll the dice, but I'm more looking at the fact that I've got Ward. I'm pretty happy. I would probably look at... It's hard. It'd be more like a Gak and Menenga conversation for me.
Oh, well, let's put it this way. If you have your starting centre sorted, whether that's a Wardenberg, a Pinder, whoever that might be, and you're looking for your backup centre, would you look at Gak over Aldrich or over Mango?
Yeah.
That backup centre position?
Yeah. Honestly, I'd prefer anyone over Aldrich right now.
So would Jackomas.
Yeah. Look, let's just hope Justin Tatum just sees that Pidgeotto hair and just goes, this is my guy.
Yeah, he's going to go catch me a few Pokemons and get a couple of wins along the way.
Yeah. No,
Sure.
mate, look, we did have a chat about Bobby Klintman. We have touched on Wardenberg and Menenga. But Pinder's a guy that I see pop up in the chat, and we're going to answer some questions. Maybe we'll have a bit of a question time after this game, now that we've covered 3 games. But Pinder, is he somebody you've been looking at bringing in? He hasn't been in tremendous form. Playing Cairns and Brisbane this week. Brisbane are pretty hard to play up front too. What do you think of Pinder?
I did have a quick look at him today. The price is not inviting. He's what, about 350K, somewhere around that mark. It's restrictive. And for a guy at that price, you bring him in, and it's only a 1-week rental now, I'd want a lot more than he's probably showing. The pros are, though, that Perth have shortened their rotation. Like Corey Webster played all of 4 minutes last game. So he'll play. Cairns is his old team. Maybe he lifts for that, but I just don't think I can keep wasting trades, bring 1-week rentals in. Like I'd prefer to get someone like a Wardenberg or a Mango that's at least going to be there for a couple of weeks at centre. But we talked about last week. Centre's thin. Unless you're bringing in guys for spot minutes, this week here, bring them in for another week. Wardenberg's about the only one you can hold consistently.
Because then you're not going to be up Schitt's Creek if you're just bringing in 1-week rentals at centre. Because Pinder still has a 60 break even over his 2 games. He might not even reach that. You might bring him in for a week and lose cash.
Yeah, and then you're going to run into problems down the line. I just think, and everyone's in the same boat. I think a lot of people are just going to park Wardenberg there. And so you can just call that neutral. Park Wardenberg there too and try and make up ground in the other spots. There's going to be too much work to do elsewhere on your court than worrying about centre every week.
Are you looking at Usher or anyone like that? Look, it's really Cotton or Pinder for me from Perth. I see SARS break even has popped up a little bit. Is it time to get rid of him?
I got rid of him before when he peaked in price. It's pissing me off. This guy has just jumped to the number 1 projected draft pick for the NBA, and he can't get in the rotation consistently. What are you doing there? LaMelo went, what did he go, number 2 or number 3 overall when he played? He was a walking triple-double. Giddy went at number 10, was it? Walking triple-double. These guys played. Saar is probably the most complete all-round game superstar-level player we've had in this league in so long, and at all of, 18 years of age, and he's playing junk minutes? Come on. Nah. Look, the other one in Perth is Doolittle.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of guys bought him in last week.
Is it too late?
Look, I'm considering it. So I've got a spot. I need to fill a forward position. I've got 3 candidates. We've probably discussed one of them to death, Mango Mathiang. Forward centre eligible. Works for me. Qual, guard forward eligible. Now, he's going to have his issues with all the guys coming back. He's probably someone who's going to get squeezed a bit. And Doolittle's the third option. Now, Doolittle played big minutes. It's Usher who's suffering now in this new
37
rotation.
minutes.
Yeah, given an overtime game, but I feel like really he's going to be not wanting to go away from the formula that's got him on a 2 or 3 game winning streak. Given it's going to be a 1-week rental, but he's about 230K. I can see him on the bench for a week if I have to on a single, if I need to do other things. I'm not hating the idea of it. He's got a break even of 31 over 2 games.
I like that. And even in Doolittle's worst games recently, I think that he'll cover that.
Yeah. The only hard thing is, last game, I think he had 8 points, 11 rebounds. If those rebounds aren't there, he really struggles to score.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, out of those, they're probably the three options to bring in at forward, and I'm probably leaning towards Doolittle and hoping he does a lot.
Sounds good. Let's postpone having a bit of a chat about Adelaide and Southeast Melbourne just to answer some of these questions.
Yeah.
One McCall away is asking, do you have to keep rubbing it in, Hammer, with the muscle shirts? Now I feel even worse about the mountain of Guzzi and Guzzi Gomez that he just destroyed.
I do notice, Mattrix, this is the first episode we've done where you've worn sleeves.
Yeah, that's what Matty Murphy in the chat's about. What's with Hammer in a jersey and Mattrix in a t-shirt? Did you guys switch bodies? I actually decided to meet the requirements of my sponsorship with the Standard Squeeze for once in my life. So yeah, thanks for sending the homebrew up from Tassie, Ash from Standard Squeeze. But I'm wearing your shirt for once, so Hammer's got to rock up to my house to get his shirt. I think he needs some sleeves after today. Adrian's in the chat just asking if you could pit Bullquall or Mango. What are you doing?
Probably Qual, given the schedule, and knowing that he'll more than likely spend the majority of the weeks on my bench.
Yep.
Mango gives you that flexibility to move to centre, and after these two doubles, their schedule gets a bit sparse, so you can, like, he'd be an upgrade on an Aldrich. But I just feel like Qual is probably going to be the one who suffers from all these guys being back.
That's
McCall
what I think.
Squeezes him, Miller squeezes him, Clintman needs minutes. Those wing spots and guard spots are going to be, they're deep.
Yeah, I think that I think McCall takes Qual's shots once they come in, and I think Miller's going to get some extra shots, but he's going to take some shots off McCall. Look, I get really worried about Qual, even though Qual has a better schedule, and I'm not a massive fan of Mango. I would go Mango over Qual. I think that you've been on to a massive winner if you've got Qual, and I definitely wouldn't trade Qual out if I owned him. I wouldn't be starting Qual. I'd be sitting him off my bench, but Mango'd be a really good backup center right now as somebody that has your boy Ulbrich sitting there, which will get about a 1.5 this week.
Qual's probably peaked, like a lot of us did in high school. He's hit his absolute pinnacle, and it's all downhill from here, I suppose.
Jacko Jones in the chat just asking, would you trade Saar now instead of Ulbrich after the coach change? I think Saar's going to get you more points. But Ulbrich, look, he's got a 20 break even. He's not going to hit that. Like, that his best game, he scored 20. He's not going to hit that this week. Don't you agree?
I think they've both got to go. But Saar's on a double this week. If you're going to have to get rid of both of them, I'd get rid of Ulbrich first. Saar, you can hold on the double and do some work next week, depending on how your squad's sorted. But yeah, they've both got to go. But Ulbrich, then Saar would be my order.
The extra money does give you a little bit more next week with Saar, doesn't it?
Yeah, and who's to say he doesn't go up? He could have a blinder. Stranger things have happened. Let's say Pinder gets in foul trouble, and Saar goes from 10 minutes to 20. Like, he could be back up around that 200K mark quite easily.
Supercoach with Doctor, actually a popular AFL podcast. I enjoy your content too, mate. But thanks for popping on. Asking if he's crazy for passing on both Cotton and Pinder this week. I don't actually think he is. But look, it's really going to depend as to what you're doing with the extra trades, whether you're just taking, I overlooked Lamb. I overlooked Doolittle to get in McVeigh last week. Was I crazy for doing it? Probably, because it went and bit me in the ass. So I would say Cotton's the one that I'd be worried about not owning this week, wouldn't you?
I'd agree. Out of those two, Cotton, I'd take. Pinder, I'm not sold on. And if you got the two, and they're expensive, the two Wildcats, you'd think they'd have to both go next week, which doesn't leave you much up your sleeve to play with the rest of your team unless it's already sorted.
Yeah, look, I agree.
I'd be interested though, Matt. If he's passing on Cotton and Pinder, what's he doing with his moves this week? What's the secret
That's
sauce he's got up his sleeves?
that's what I'm super interested. And why is it Taj McCall? But throw it in. Yeah, look, Global just wants you to squeeze into his team, Hammer. So look,
Yeah,
look, I've
open
I've played
office.
with you. You can count you for about 6 assists and about 8 points. So I like it. Apparently AJ Johnson is looking to get a run this week. With the new coach. So let's see what comes out. I'm not sure I believe in that one.
You know what? I don't hate that call. That's better than any toilet truth bomb we've ever had.
Yeah, look, toilet.
Also,
How
we put
good's
out a,
today been with Toilet Truth Bomb not being here?
well, I was going to say, should we put out a missing persons report? This guy's AWOL. But look, AJ Johnson, riddle me this. I know he's a next star, but Justin Tatum originally came into the Hawks as their North American scout. Surely he's got a vested interest in this next stars program and potentially somehow, and I'm just guessing here, linked with identifying talent over there. Maybe his claim to fame is that he's going to get AJ Johnson some burn and get him drafted. Maybe his minutes increase.
Mate, I know nobody has looked at this for a little while, but I just looked it up. But can you tell me how much AJ Johnson is in Supercoach at the moment?
God, he would have started at 115.
115.
I reckon he's 70s.
He is 58K.
Ah. And if you're going to spend 58K, you may as well get old mate who's guard center eligible.
Yeah, true. But AJ Johnson might play, so that's what I'm most excited about.
I don't hate that at all. For a cheapie on your bench towards the back end of the season, if it's all over for the Hawks and they've thrown the towel in, why not give the kid some run?
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to be looking forward to it. We might have just uncovered that live, so that's why I don't put my trade chat in until after we've had a bit of a chat, Hammer. Who would you captain between Lamb, Pinder, Parker Jackson Cartwright, and Crawford? And go.
Ooh, a lot of options. You know what? I don't hate the look of Crawford. I also don't hate the look of Doyle if you had him in there.
Yeah. Look, it's obviously he's just putting up what he's got. I know that you chatted about the fact that you really like Lamb's matchups this week, but I actually kind of like Crawford's matchups this week too.
Yeah. Look, and with Tassie, like, I know more than likely Crawford and PJ still be matching up, but I just don't see it as a real head-to-head battle. I feel like neither of them are even going to try and guard each other. They're just going to be 100 miles an hour, getting shots up. I don't think it's going to affect them. Crawford has the ability to go big, and he also has the ability to impact the stat sheet. Like, you looked at him last week. I think I had it written down here somewhere. Crawford, 17 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals. That's a pretty solid stat line. Like, even if he only scored 10 points, he's still going to get you like 30. And he's had those games. We saw him go off for 30 odd the other week. He's got a ceiling on him.
You know what I really love about that statement, Hammer?
Tell me.
That no matter how often I send you a Google Doc, you still have your handwritten paperwork. So,
mate, I'm slowly keeping up with technology. I've just got Wi-Fi in the last week, mate. Come on, give me a chance.
That's great. I love to see your podcast using Apple CarPlay the other day. So let's enjoy that. McDowell White or Bull Qual? I actually didn't expect these questions to take so long, so we might have to go through a few more games before that. But we've covered New Zealand, we've covered Cairns. McDowell White or Bull Qual for you?
Bull Qual. McDowell White he's in a funk. Has he dropped in price massively? Like,
I'm just having a.
It's disappointing as how good he was meant to be and how much opportunity he was meant to have, and it's like you feel like he's due, but I'm not seeing it.
He's been dropping about 9K a week, back to about 42K. A break even of 54 over a couple games. I think he can cover it.
What's his price?
But yeah, 280.
280. That's not horrendous. That's like new import price. Yeah.
Mate, can I give you this one? Mason Miller's asking, would you trade Van Vliet, Turner, and Draymond for Curry, Desmond Bain, and Josh Hart?
I hate Draymond, so as long as you're getting him out of your team, I'd go with whatever.
Look, I actually really like getting Curry, Desmond Bain, and Josh Hart. I've got an NBA podcast afterwards, Mason. So make sure that you get on and comment on that one. Look, I'm going to note where I am with the questions. We're going to answer a couple a bit later on, but let's get into Adelaide and Southeast Melbourne. And just what I said a little bit earlier, Adelaide have a single this week, but they have the double next week. I don't really like adding an Adelaide player this week. I actually don't like adding an Adelaide player ever.
Yeah, full stop.
But look, we can have a bit of a look this week against a really good Southeast Melbourne team and just see if there's a glimmer of hope for us to adding anyone next week, can't we?
Well, you could, but it wouldn't be a good use of your time. They're trash. We've said this since the preseason, man. Come on.
It's super hard. Like, we can't find a center to add. Maybe if you get Humphreys on a good game or somebody like that. But, there's not much there, is there?
Look, I think occasionally, if you have a centre like Wardenberg set, that's fine. There's going to be times, like JLA has the odd double here and there. I'm going to be looking pretty hard to bring him in for a 1 week rental as a captain option.
Yep.
Maybe the same you'd look at an Alan Williams if you had the cash, but it's going to be difficult unless the rest of your team's set to have that much spare cash or a downgrade option to work that in. So, that's something I got in the back of my plans, though, is that I will be bringing in 1 week rentals with JLA and possibly Source when they're on the double.
And it's the same. Like, we're looking at, like, I'm probably, like, so I've got Source and Gary Brown on my team. I've managed to have Gary Brown on that 80 week. So pretty happy there. I've almost held Brown all year, but just with Southeast Melbourne's run, I'm just looking to get off these Southeast Melbourne players. Not super relevant. I would love if some of them drop cash so that when it comes to those double game weeks, they're a bit more affordable.
Yeah, for sure.
Cairns versus Tassie. I know we've talked about Cairns and I know we've talked about Tassie. I suppose matchup-wise, not a great matchup for Wardenbergs, your Menengas, blokes like that.
I don't hate that matchup. You look at Wardenberg and Menenga, they can both absolutely stroke it from the three. They're very pick and pop kind of centers. Marcus Lee isn't that. He's reasonably mobile, but he sort of plays that drops. He gets down into the paint. They want to block shots at the rim. I think Wardenberg, Menenga, hitting that three, and Ford will probably look to be perimeter oriented. It's going to open up a lot of driving lanes for Taj McCall. If you had him, it'd probably have a big one. Full Qual might be all right because Wardenberg, Menenga are going to drag the bigs out away from the bucket.
Yeah, I really like it. I didn't look at that, so I actually really like the insight there. But when I think about Will Magnay on the perimeter also, you know what? A little bit earlier we were comparing ourselves. I'd back myself against Will Magnay on the perimeter.
Oh, yeah. I think we'd back our 5'11" centre from the under-18 team we coached.
Look,
at least he wouldn't be injured the whole season.
Shout out to the boys that are probably watching the podcast. So, look, we delved in deep when it come to Cairns. Look, Tassie, of course, we're looking at your Crawfords. We didn't really touch on Milton Doyle. He's 310K at the moment. Like, just for perspective-wise, Jack McVeigh, I have him. He's 309K at the moment. Wow. Milton Doyle, do you like him this week?
I like Milton Doyle every week. He's just a smooth operator, isn't he? I don't hate it, and I don't hate the price either. Like, if you're thinking of bringing in someone this week, I'd put him on the same par as a Cotton. I'd probably go him over Cotton if I didn't already hold Cotton. I just think he impacts the score sheet so many different ways, and he just eases into it. And he always gets there. Like, I've watched the last few weeks. In the first quarter, I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't, bring him in. And then by the third quarter, he's already racked up 30 Supercoach points. Like, Last week, he had 13 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals. Like, it wasn't amazing to the eye, but he just accumulates. Like, he's a solid Supercoach player.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. The old bringing Uncle Milton in. Let's see what we can work out there. We're going to Saturday, and my boys Brizzy are playing against Perth. I suppose Perth are relevant this week. Brizzy are relevant next week. I did notice in the chat our let's call him our producer, and he popped on the show, and he was second overall at one stage throughout the year. Brain pointed out 111 people are trading out Bannon, even though he has a -8 break even with a double next week. Should those guys delete app?
Yeah, there's 111 people entitled to their wrong opinion right there. That's just ludicrous. You're going to make cash. He'll give you a solid score on your bench, and he's on a double next week, and he's startable. Like, I just don't get where their heads are at. It's ridiculous.
You and I had a bit of a chat off air, not about Sobey, but about Aaron Baines. He's dropped in cash. Look, we're talking about bringing in somebody like Mango Mathian for an extra 10K. What if I told you could get ex-NBA superstar Aaron Baines? He once scored 40 playing for the Phoenix Suns with a break even of 27 for 194K. What do you think?
I would be very, very tempted. Now, unsubstantiated completely, could be false. I might be making this up. Don't know. But Terrell Harrison, was he injured at all last game? He didn't play a lot of minutes. Baines ended up playing more minutes than Harrison. Or is it just that Baines is starting to work himself back to the Premier Big? I think at 190K, and Brisbane's schedule is going to start to get reasonable again soon. If you could afford to park him at your backup centre, I don't hate that at all.
Yeah, I don't mind it. And now that we've all generated a little bit of cash, 190K isn't a lot to sit there. For example, if I boosted this week, I could go Lockie Aldrich to Aaron Baines, and that gives me a bit of a stiffy.
What's the brain? Wow, I'm here for it. What's the break even for Baines?
27.
Cool. He just went from 6
He
to
might
midnight.
Yeah, look, that's in a single game week, so he might even, honestly, he might be 190K next week.
I reckon next week might be worthwhile. It'd be worth a look on that double. I reckon he'll drop this week.
Look, Sobey, I haven't really been looking at him for the last little bit. Sobey's been exactly what we expected this year when people are talking about, you get him on those amazing runs, and then people are so disappointed in him. This has been him his whole career. So I'm not, like when people have said, nah, I'm off Sobey, like I brought him in after he scored 80 in 2 games. Well, he's always done that. He's always been completely hot and cold. I think Shannon Scott being away has actually hurt Sobey a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely hurt the team. Like we spoke earlier, Scott was brought in for a reason. Sobey's not a point guard. And I think when you put the ball in his hands too much, he tries to do too much, and the turnovers creep in, that score, it gets severely impacted. Now, Sobey, I think the other part of the equation is there are too many good guards this week and most weeks for him to really come into the equation. Like, are you taking Sobey over Crawford? No. Over Doyle? No. Over Cotton? No. Over PJC? No. So you're probably, 5th string guard at best. Maybe throw Paddy Miller in there and he's dropped to 6th. So, yeah, I don't think he's relevant right now.
No, I agree with you. Another
glad.
couple teams that aren't very relevant at the moment, and it's going to be the last game of the round, is Melbourne versus Sydney. I can't wait to get on some Sydney players, but it'd be ludicrous to add them right now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think there's too much work to be done elsewhere with your rosters. But we did touch earlier. I think it's about round 10 onwards for about 5 or 6 rounds. Sydney probably have one of the better schedules over that period. And
So
it was
round
probably a
10 to
Jalen.
17. Let me go through round 10 to 17. 2-1, 2-1, 2-2, 1-2. And then we get off them and you go into a run of singles to get to round 20 and the end of your Supercoach comp.
Yeah. So what we're probably looking at now is if you have two expensive guards on your court, you got Taron Armstrong potentially as your bench guard. Can you afford to have a 290, 300K player sitting in that bench spot, which is Jalen Adams, come around 10? You can bring in and out on those doubles and singles. Or is this a guy who's playable on a single?
I don't know. Like, of course, like if a Parker Jackson Cartwright or a Milton Doyle or a Bryce Cotton are on a double, and I'm not looking at the schedule right now.
Yeah.
I would say we're sitting Jalen Adams, but I think we've all worked really hard on this cash generation to this point.
Yeah.
You know, I've still got your Josh Bannons. I still think I'm going to make a bit of money out of a Bobby Clintman, a Taron Armstrong, and blokes like that on the bench. I think that might be a luxury we get.
Yeah, it's probably your goal. You need to have 3 playable guards that you can rotate, so at least 2 are on doubles. And if you had the 3-headed monster, that was Jalen Adams, and I don't know who else was on the schedule at that point, but that's a pretty good position to be in.
Look, the thing about what we've been talking about per schedule the whole time, like round 12, they're going to be on a double, but Cotton goes on a run of singles. I don't think you can hold Cotton through that period, but you might be looking at like a Gary Brown or somebody like that through that period. I think I'd prefer to play a Gary Brown on a double than a Jalen Adams on a single. When I have a look, like you've got your... What are we going to have? We're going to have Cairns on doubles. We're going to have Melbourne on doubles. And we're going to have Southeast Melbourne on doubles. I think maybe you could just work in a Brown, maybe just sit Adams for a week and bring him back in for a double. So,
well, if they're the doubles, like you could possibly get a pairing of 3 of them between Jalen Adams, maybe a Paddy Miller, and possibly a Shea Illy if you had to go down to a cheaper option. Like, he's still serviceable.
He's still sitting on my bench.
Yeah, and good, man. He's been doing well for you.
Brought him in at about 210K, got a 22 break even and sitting at 267 at the moment. With Melbourne's injury troubles, he hasn't been bad enough for me to trade out yet, so I'm just going to run with it.
Yeah, why not? Still making money, still putting scores up. It's a luxury.
Mate, do you want to head into trades? Because that might answer some questions, or maybe the most traded in and out, or do you want to just answer some questions?
Let's pick a few questions first. There's some good ones popping up.
There's been some really good questions, so let's duck into it. We've got JCY. Loving our work. If you had to choose between Saar and Mango to start this week, who would you choose?
Mango.
Cool.
It's an opportunity thing. I think Mango is without doubt the centre there. His minutes have increased since Cheatham's been out. His roles increased. We touched on it earlier. Saar he's not getting the burn that he deserves, being the projected number 1 pick. It's all really his fault.
Let's blame Toowoomba Local, really. Williams to Lamb this week for Matty Murphy. Also Norton to Doyle. Holding Saar and Clintman. Can't argue with that logic, can you?
Williams to Lamb. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, Williams to Lamb, Norton to Doyle. Norton's kind of run his course a little bit. Brisbane haven't been winning games, but he's been playing all right.
Still play. He'll still play as long as Shannon Scott's out. So if you could massage him to your bench and get rid of someone else, go with that. But yeah, love Doyle coming in, Lamb coming in for Williams. Williams has to go at that price, and Lamb's solid. Seems like Delaney's shit the bed. Another
sounds good.
Being proved wrong.
Julian shouting out the mighty Brisbane Lions. Bit disappointing. I went out with the Insight boys for the AFL and the NRL Grand Final this year, so that was great. Brisbane lost both of them. Who would you say is the best bench center under 168K, mate?
Ooh,
Oh,
who do we got
160K.
under 160?
Let
Star?
me chuck the filters. Let me chuck the filters on to center, and I'll help you out a
Filters
little bit.
unfiltered.
Yeah. Phil unfiltered. Look, Menenga has been the highest scoring bloke. You've got Gak, you've got Lockie Albridge, you've got your Rocco Zakarski, you've got Gorjok Jack, you've got Dane Peniel, you've got Rosetto, and Majok, still owned by 12.9% of teams despite not scoring a point yet.
Isn't that embarrassing? Yeah, look, out of those names, and you're probably not forgetting old mate who's guard centre eligible from last week. Guy plays for Perth. Yeah, look,
Jack Andrew.
Jack Andrew. Menenga, Gak, Pano are probably the only three there that are relevant. I think Gak's still injured. Daniel Johnson, he'd be more expensive now, wouldn't he?
No,
Yeah,
he's
that's
outside of
about
that
it.
price range.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
I
you could
would
push
say
it up a little bit,
Menenga.
you can get Mango.
Lock it in. I'd go Menenga.
Yeah.
Let me have a look around. We're having a look in. Lamb or Qual, and why is it Sam Kekovich?
Yeah. Lamb, without a doubt. The roles there, Qual, we've talked about already. He's going to get impacted. He's going to get squeezed. And even if it's only his shot attempts, there's the bulk of his scoring right there.
Boogie X is actually loving Mattrix with a hat, and I've got one for you, mate.
That's good. Charlotte Hornets
that's
got to be like everyone's second favorite team. Like
yeah,
90s
I know,
Spurs,
right?
Muggsy, Grandmama.
Tell me how fucking sick that was. Yeah, I just couldn't leave it. We've got Matty Murphy asking if you can coach the Wildcats. You had a bit of a foray over in WA playing basketball, didn't you, mate?
I did. I took a season over there. It's yeah, why not? I'll go and give JR a hand. How's that? I'd be playing SAR, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would be playing SAR as well. Matty Granger is adding Trey Kell, so I'm just going to leave that there. Supercoach with Doctors back in the chat, looking to boost to have a massive week. Albert Sobey and Source to Cotton Pinder and Mango. Yeah, it's hard. Like, I kind of just want to have a boost up my sleeve. I know I could have a massive week. I could get rid of Lockie Albridge this week, but
It
I
depends how
kind of
many
like the
boosts you're
safety
gonna
net.
Like, if you haven't used a
Supercoach
boost
with
yet,
Doctor or me?
Doctor.
Yeah. Let's see if he's got any boost left. So pop in the chat, mate. Let us know how
If
many
you
boosts
haven't
you
used
have.
a single boost, I'd go hard this week. But if you're down to one left, I wouldn't touch it.
I reckon if you've got 3 boosts left, you could use it this week on
Sure.
that.
Yeah. I don't think many people do.
David Bryson is captaining Lamb or Parker Jackson Cartwright. You mentioned, I suppose, matchup-wise, that you preferred Lamb's matchups?
I did, but I also feel like he's more inconsistent. PJC, he at least seems to get that sort of. His floor is probably 25, which, I mean, I captained Source last week and got a 28, so it's not the end of the world. But Lamb, he'll go solid. He had a 40 or something the other week, but he could also have a 14. So I think PJC's safe, but Lamb's probably he's a bit of an X factor.
No, I like it. Brano's in the chat. Thoughts on whether to trade out Source to Pinder this week? Leaves him with 3 Perth players starting, or does he do Saar to Wardenberg and bench Source?
I wouldn't be benching Source. That's a lot of coin to keep on your bench. It's a while now until Southeast Melbourne have another double, isn't it?
Yeah, Southeast Melbourne don't have another double until round 11, and we're in round 8, so that's 3 weeks.
Yeah. I don't think there's any world in which you can hold on to Source. He has to go this week.
Source to Pinder, when you have Source, is the obvious trade, isn't it?
Yeah. Or, I mean, do you go Source to Wardenberg and then use your money elsewhere? Shore up your forwards some other way.
Yeah, I like it. Like when Source, especially when it comes to next week and you don't have to waste a trade on Pinder to Wardenberg.
Yeah. Well, having 3 Wildcats in your starting lineup, that's 3 guys you potentially have to get out. The only one that's an exception really is if you, I'm assuming the third one's Doolittle. You've got Bannon, you can just straight swap him. You could probably sit him there for another week. But yeah, it's a lot of guys to get out in 1 week.
I agree. Jeneth Fernando could be the best name in the chat. Would I pass on Cotton, trade from Adams if you already have Doyle and Parker Jackson Cartwright?
Yeah.
You know what? I could get around that. Doyle and Parker Jackson Cartwright are perfectly serviceable starters.
Absolutely.
And I would be okay with captaining Doyle this week.
I'd captain Doyle. I think you can, if you've got those 2, there's no point trying to keep a Cotton on your bench or one of those other guys on your bench if you already got them. Especially when Cotton's a 1-week rental. Shore up other parts of your roster. PJC and Doyle, I've got PJC and Cotton. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. I'm not expecting a huge variation between Doyle and Cotton.
No, me neither. Corey Blackledge is asking thoughts on Source to Pinder and Ulbrich to New Zealand centre. I'm presuming he means Mango. Still have Adams. Don't know, unsure to get out for a third. It says Sobey, Adams, Parker Jackson Cartwright, and Armstrong. Well, look, I really like Source to Pinder, and I like Ulbrich to Mango, but I wonder whether you could not go Ulbrich to Mango. Mango's matchups are pretty hard this week, and maybe you could get one of, Sobey or Adams to a guy just playing a double game week. Whether you go Cotton, whether you go Milton Doyle, somebody like that, and just, you're going to be better overall. I know Ulbrich is a rage trade, but he's not really hurting you on your bench, is he?
Nah, look, you got options there.
You got options. That was incredibly deep and insightful. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Oscar St. George, is Clintman a good play this week? I would say he's a good play on your bench.
Yeah, I'm going to keep him on the bench. At a push, you can start him, but I feel like he's not going to. A week off, new faces. I think he's probably good for maybe 20 a game.
Mate, I've been chucked into the corner a little bit with like a McVeigh or Doolittle this round.
Yeah. This is your situation.
I'll cover something like that in my trade chat, but what would you do?
If I don't own either of them, or if I do own both of them?
No, if you own both of them and say you've got a exceptional player that you're gonna start already, and you can only pick one of them.
This is tough, and I wouldn't be upset either way. But McVeigh has that really clear role. It's been there all season. Tassie have not changed their starting lineup once this year. He had a little down week last weekend. He's 309K. Look, McVeigh's been playing. He's having a career year. Doolittle, on the other hand, I think he had 31 last game. Might have had a 30 the week before, possibly. He's in some form. He seems to be in favour. Look, I'm going to go Doolittle this week, I think. I didn't own either prior to this week, but I really wouldn't be upset with either.
No, I like it. Lamb and Pinder out. Williams and Sobey in. Would we go Saar or Berg to start? I'd be going Wardenberger.
Yeah. Wardenberger's going to play 30 minutes, and it's just the opportunity thing. If they played the same minutes, Saar for sure. Saar's just ridiculous points per minute, but he's just not getting the minutes to show it.
Mate, I've really been enjoying all these questions in, and I implore you to keep putting your questions in. We're 54 minutes in. Let's get into trade talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to report a trade.
Hammer, you go first. What's your... Look, our trades are brought here today by Bonus Bank. Our sponsor, Bonus Bank, is Australia's #1 match betting website. Match betting in Australia is a profitable side hustle, taking advantage of bookmaker bonus bets and promotions to make risk-free and tax-free income every week. With the help of bonus bets, tutorials, and tools, you can start making your first profit and finding edges like enhanced odds. Bonus Bank is free to join and make your first $75. For less than $2 a day, you can upgrade to a premium account and unlock a heap of courses that cover all aspects of match betting. The best thing, if you use promo code INSIGHT, you get 25% off your first month. Learn how to use bonus bets and convert them into cash easily. So use promo code INSIGHT and get your premium Bonus Bank account today. Sorry for cutting you off. Give me your trades.
Yeah. So I got rid of the Source. He was my center. I brought in Sam Wardenberg. This is a long-term play. I'm playing the long game. And then I got rid of a guy who'd been sitting on my bench for ages, didn't live up to expectations in Kyron Galloway. Brought in Doolittle, but that's a position I've played with all week. Whether it was Doolittle, whether it was Mango, whether it was
Can you
someone
afford
else.
Lamb?
I've got Lamb already.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So my starters are looking right now as Wardenberg, Lamb, Doolittle, Cotton, Parker, Jackson, Cartwright.
So what I was sort of playing with was getting rid of Williams, and I still have Gary Brown. So I've got to get rid of Southeast Melbourne players this week. And I want to bring in Lamb. I think his break even isn't too far gone with a 44. Look, I just want to bring him in. You mentioned his matchups were really good this week.
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford Cotton, but I'm actually think I'm going to bring in Milton Doyle.
I like that.
I think he's going to be somebody that I captain this week, playing against New Zealand and playing against Cairns. Look, my starters are going to be Parker Jackson Cartwright, Lamb, McVeigh, Doyle, and Wardenberg. I'm going to run with like a Bannon and a Clintman, a Shea Illy, and a Taron Armstrong off the bench. I've still got Aldrich. But by going Milton Doyle, I've got all this money in the bank. I could even boost Aldrich to Baines this week. I've got 2 boosts left. I would love to save it. I think Baines will score, say, 25 or something along those lines. Do you think trading Baines in for an Aldrich 1 or 2 is worth a boost?
No. I like
Okay.
the trade, but I think it's next week, and I'm going to say Baines doesn't score 25 and he drops in price.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. I really like it. Let's head into... Where are we at? Let's head into some captain chat.
Captain, my captain. Go captain, my captain.
Mate, who are you captaining this week?
I'm captaining Cotton. And I say it every time. I don't feel like you can pay up that kind of coin and not captain them. But I just don't see another real captain option. But I love Doyle. That would be my captain if I could bring him in. But I've held Cotton the last 3 weeks, so I'm going to have to ride him out.
So I'm the same. I've got to bring somebody in on a 1-week rental, and it's whether I bring in a Cotton and whether I bring in a Doyle. And you know what? I'm going to double down on the fact that I fucked up bringing McVeigh in last week instead of Anthony Lamb or Doolittle. I'm going to bring in Milton Doyle, and I'm going to captain him, and I'm going to pray and hope that Cotton can be contained this week.
Oh, here's something that might make you feel a little bit better. So Cotton had a
Please.
43 last week, right? Of that 43 Supercoach points, he had 37 actual points. He's not going to go off like that every week. And you know, that being said, sometimes he does contribute across the rest of the stat sheet, but it was 37 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. That was it. He was just shooting that rock every time he touched it. Whereas we touched on Milton Doyle's stat line last week, and we possibly called it a down game, but he had 38 Supercoach points. Like 43 versus 38, you'll take either or, but he was spread across the stat sheet. 13 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals, and he still had 4 turnovers. You clean that up, and he's well and truly in the 40s. So I like Doyle's game when it comes to Supercoach. I'm jealous that you've got Doyle.
Yeah, look, I'm jealous that you've got Cotton. So let's see. Let's see how
Okay.
this pans out. I just know that he can go off at any given point, and I'm scared not owning Cotton. But I know a lot of the boys in the chat are in the same boat. So yeah, look, we can I suppose hate on Cotton together.
I know you're jealous of mine, and I'm jealous of yours, and I also know that everyone's always asking for my relationship advice. So let me put it out here that it is never good to swap wives. Just be happy with the one you got.
Mate, I'm not going to make any comments about your wife because she was looking lovely the other day when I saw her, can I say? But
Good on you.
mate, you can tell Lozo said that. But look, there's a few guys in the chat that still have 3 boosts left. Unsure to lose a third trade for Adams out or hold the boost. I just wonder whether with Sydney's draw and being on single game weeks, both this week and next week, that would be worth a boost for me. Yeah, and it's not so much guys dropping in cash or anything that I've used boost for. It's all been when I've got myself in a hole schedule-wise, hasn't it?
That's it. Or an injury, something like that. Yeah. I've never used one that I've wanted to use. It's always been like last minute, pull the emergency brake, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's my concern. Like I'm sitting there with Ulbrich. I was like, fuck, do I get in Baines? But again, on a single game week, I think if someone was sliding into my DMs, I wouldn't be advising to do that one.
Let's look ahead a little bit though. We've talked that the centre position is an issue. Here's a name that may be relevant in probably 2 weeks' time. Is Jonah Bolden, forward centre eligible? Yep. I think he had a 32 or something last week. What's he priced at now? Like
it's still in around that 230.
Yeah. What
there you go, 239. He's gone up 7K, so he's always been in and around that right price. He's just been the thing is he's been scoring at his rate, but he's also been scoring so up and down. Like he'll go and get a 6 and then he'll get a 40. That's what I hate about his game. And Jordan Hunter being there when they need, I suppose, shooting, they've been bringing Bolden in. When they need the defense, they've been bringing Hunter in. I just wish his role was more defined.
It would be nice. And you also got Hogue there now too. But I'm thinking, I mean, it's expensive for a backup centre, but it wouldn't be a bad piece to have if you could afford to keep him on your bench and bring him in here and there for a forward or a centre spot.
I mean, when we're bringing up Baines, bring him in at 190K. If you've got the extra 50K, Jonah Bolden's nicer than Baines.
Yeah, 50K is a lot though, isn't it?
50K
There's another option. Global's just popped into the chat talking Marcus Lee as a decent cheap option. Now, we touched on this last week pretty extensively, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. And I like Marcus Lee. I've liked Marcus Lee every game. And like this week is the point in which his break even of 33 in a double game week, it's about made sense. Like he's going to, even in a bad week, he's going to score 16 and 16, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's there. The role's defined, which is sort of like that first thing you look for. And he's another one of those players. You look at him every week and you think, if you only grabbed that one more rebound and you took that shot or you made this, like he's frustratingly close to putting together a pretty solid Supercoach game.
He's so sideways from Wardenberg, though.
Yeah.
You could not get any more sideways.
Yeah.
And no schedule. Yeah, that's what scares me off Marcus Lee. If Marcus Lee had Wardenberg's schedule, I would own Marcus Lee.
Yeah, for sure. Like Marcus Lee in Melbourne United last year is not the same Marcus Lee in Tassie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not.
Like I know it was a different scoring system and maybe it suited him more, but he was popping up for like 40s and 50s. And he's still only playing 20 minutes a game. He's in foul trouble half the time. But Yeah.
Marcus Lee is extremely efficient, and that doesn't fucking matter in Supercoach. That's why we're talking about blokes like Parker Jackson Cartwright. That's why we're talking about Lambs. That's why we're talking about Cottons. That's why some people still have bubbles in their team, because you can just jack shit and it doesn't hurt you. You just need to, honestly, it's more about usage rate than it is actual, like, shooting percentages or anything like that.
And there's a guy, like, some guys have just benefited so much from the switch, and they're the guys who are inefficient. And probably the two that come to mind most are Sobey and Taj McCall. Now, if Taj McCall, he had 6 turnovers last game, but you take that out, he rebounds, he's all over the place, he's active, he steals, but he can't hit the backside of a barn. And do you remember playing NBA Hang Time on the 64?
Yes.
It was that one of those little calls. That shot could have killed somebody. That's what makes me
you
think
could.
of him.
Yeah, you could McCall me maybe, I reckon, on that one. So
3-point threat, no sweat, you can bet.
Mate, if you've got nothing else to go through, we might wrap this one up in and around 105 minutes. That's a good knock.
Impressive. One of our best.
I'd love to see you do a bit more on Twitter. So we can find me at SC_Mattrix. I'll be talking shit about every sport. Hammer 32 will be in there as well. I know we've been shouting him out on the Insight Fantasy Sports page, so slide into his DMs, make him feel welcome in there on Twitter and X. I reckon he's about to start getting involved. So
I'll have to open up the old Abacus.
Spam the shit out of him. Make sure he gets involved. And look, I'm excited to see you do your last minute trade thoughts.
That's good, mate. I'll get on there on the old Nokia 3315, and when I'm done playing Snake, I might reply to some of you.
Sounds good, man. You've listened to an Insight Fantasy Sport podcast.